12. Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Education. Does she stand by all her statements?
Honourable Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, yes, in the circumstances they were made and when they have been accurately quoted.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary question.
Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, does she stand by her statement that, quote, government is fully funding the delivery of the school curriculum, end quote? If so, how does she explain the fact that parental donations to schools have increased to over $100 million during National's term in office, and some schools are now asking parents to donate as much as $600 per student per year?
Honourable Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Education, firstly I'll just make this point. Under our government, for 6 successive budgets, we've increased operational grants by $600 million. Donations are not compulsory, and it is my advice that the amount that is given on average in terms of donation represents a couple of percentage points of the overall funding schools receive.
Supplementary question.
Order. Supplementary question. Chris Hipkins.
Why does she claim that government funding for education is increasing when, adjusted for inflation and population growth, overall funding for education has fallen in 4 out of National's 6 budgets?
Honourable Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Education, I can confirm that, as I said before, I don't agree with the member. We have increased the education budget for 6 education budgets. We now spent $10.1 billion. That is one of the highest amounts in the OECD.
That's a whole lot of money.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question. Chris Hipkins.
Does she stand by her statement that, quote, my education agenda is clear and transparent and responsive, end quote? If so, will she now categorically rule out allowing existing state schools to convert into charter schools? If not, why not?
Mr Speaker,
Honourable Nikki Kay.
On behalf of the Minister of Education, a couple of things. Our agenda is incredibly transparent. It's very transparent given that we have seen incredible improvements in NCEA level results. I can say to the member that it's not our intention to adopt that policy.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Does she stand by her statement with regard to the creation of executive principals and expert teachers, quote, we have had reports of support all around the country, end quote? If so, is she reconsidering that statement in light of a recent survey of school principals that found that 54% of them were opposed outright to the plan, 27% had concerns about the policy, and only 4% were actually supportive?
Honourable Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Education, I do stand by my statement, and I can say to the member, as I said to the member before, we have a working group that is now formed an advisory group. We have said that we are consulting on this policy, but I can draw the member's attention to, for instance, the PPTA's comments when they were incredibly supportive around this policy. While we accept that some people around the country may have concerns, ultimately we're doing this to raise achievement, but also to enable to have proper career progression for teachers. We're very confident of this policy and we're working well with the sector to implement it.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Does she agree with the statement that, quote, governments should have no more involvement in the education business than it has in the food business, end quote? If not, in what particular regard does she disagree with that statement?
Jerry's got experience.
Honourable Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Education, I'm assuming that the member is referring to ACT Party Leader Jamie White's comments, and I would refer him this week to his colleague who has promoted, I think, a genetically modified midget mower to roam the streets of Rimataka, and I would ask that member to consider whether he has actually consulted with the Green Party, because, as is the case, many different political parties across this House will have different views. And from our perspective, we are very confident of our policy.
In other words, try mower.
Order. That concludes.
Speaker, point of order.
Point of order, the right honourable.
Speaker, I seek the leave of the House to have item number 11 to be moved to the top of the order paper. It's about making match-fixing a crime, and Mr McCulley desperately needs it.
Order. Leave is sought to adjust the order paper with order number 11 coming to the top of the... Order. Sorry. The member has sought leave. Leave is sought to do that. Is there any objection to that course of action? Yes, there is. Order. I call on Government Order of the Day number 1.
Appropriation 2014-15 Estimates Bill, Committee Statement.